Hi guys, on today's video I'm going to be talking about implications for the active straight leg raise. This was something I shared on my Instagram a couple of days ago, but just to refresh you, all we're trying to do is see if you can get the top heel beyond the bottom knee and separate your left hip from your right hip or vice versa. This is critical if you're involved in any single leg tasks, i.e. walking upstairs, sprinting, kicking and efficient running patterns. So to perform this test, you're going to lie flat on your back. You're going to make sure that your back is flat on the floor. And then from this position, all you're looking to do is see if you can get that top heel past that bottom knee, keeping this leg flat on the floor and this leg straight. So this would be a pass because it comes past that knee. This would be a fail. Now, the first thing to look for is, do you have any significant asymmetries either side? So I'm talking about something that is really noticeably visual. So something, for example, like this. If you've got a left leg that's there, but for example, the right leg is coming all the way up there. We'll get into that in another post, but another thing to look for if you cannot achieve this is, firstly, is there a limitation in the calf? So the gastrocnemius, without meaning to get too scientific on you, attaches around the back of the knee. So if this muscle has become short, then it's going to have implications for the perception of tightness in your hamstrings. So first way to have a look is to see if the calf is possibly implicated is one of two things. First thing to do is test the active straight leg raise with foot flexed and foot extended. So for example, if there is a massive difference between how high up you can get your leg when the foot is pointed towards you versus when it's pointed up, this may be the first indicator that maybe it's not your hamstrings that are necessarily the problem. They might just be the effect, if you will. The cause may actually be your calf. Another simple test to do is, can you achieve your knee dropping against the wall from a distance of at least a fist away. 10 centimeters would be gold standard, but as a minimum we want to be able to touch our knee to the wall without our heel coming off. If we find that our heel is having to creep off, even if it's just a little bit like this, then that is a surefire indicator that your calves are definitely contributing to the issue in some way, shape or form. Now, one stretch I like to combat this in terms of hitting both hamstring and calf is using a thick resistance band. It's important to note, however, that changes in range of motion from something like stretching are only going to be short term. Later on in this video, I'll show you how you can cement that change of motion longer term with a bit of loaded stretching. So this is the first one. You're going to take a heavy resistance band. If you don't have one of these, you can put your hand around the back of the knee, but this works a little bit more effectively. So you're going to place the band around your foot. You're going to keep this leg up. We're not really worried about that for now. And then all you're going to do is extend that leg up as much as you can tolerate. Keep that toe pointed towards you. Embrace that stretch for 3 seconds. And then you're going to exhale out as hard as you can. So I'm in this position. I'm going to exhale for 3, 2, 1. And then I'm slowly back down into that position. So I'm going to go through this 10 to 12 times. 3 second pause. Exhale. So again, I should be feeling this round the back of the knee and in the calf as well. So I've got 2 for the price of 1. Now, important to note is, yes, we've got a bit of short-term range of motion, but we need to cement this. Now, one of my favourite ways of doing this, and in terms of people missing a trick in terms of keeping hold of what mobility they have, is to actually get some loaded mobility working. Now, I've got a little disc that I'm going to stand on. This could quite easily be a step. So you're loading that calf at end ranges of motion. So here is my step. Ideally this would be a bit higher, and all I'm going to do is let my heel sink as low down as possible from the raised height, and then I'm going to come up as high as possible. Now, if this is difficult doing this on one leg, you can either hold onto the wall or you can raise and lower with 2 legs. I personally would recommend lower with 1 because the stretch is much more intense, and raise on 2 if it's difficult. So it's going to look something like this. So I'm going to let that heel sink as far down below and hold that for 3 seconds. And then as I raise up, I'm as tall as possible. Again, you might need something to help you balance. Pushing through that big toe, and then slowly down on one leg, keeping this leg nice and straight. So nice and tall on 2, as low down as I can on 1. The final movement in terms of improving that hamstring flexibility is going to be a simple hip hinge. Ideally, this is weighted. However, you don't need to go crazy on the weight here. It's just enough to make your hamstrings feel like they're working. So I'm looking to make sure that my back is always staying what we call neutral. If I find that my hamstrings are on fire, say when I get to this position, I'm going to hold that position and breathe out, and then see if I can creep my way towards an increased range of motion. If you lose your back position, you'll also lose the hamstring stretch. If your knees bend too much, you'll also lose that stretch. So I'm going to set up here. I'm going to make sure my knees are just slightly bent. All I'm going to do is push that bum back as far as it will go. Now my hamstrings are pretty flexible. I can get into this parallel position, no problem. But if you're getting here and you're starting to lose your back position, then you're going to stay at this point. Big exhale out. 3, 2, 1. And then see if you can creep a little bit further down. So something like 2 sets of 10 with the band, 2 sets of 10 with the calf raise, making sure to pause in the top and the bottom positions, and a set of 5 or so with a light enough weight that it doesn't feel like strength is a limiting factor, but heavy enough that it forces you to work hard to maintain your position. So quick roundup. Make sure that if you're assessing your calves in terms of whether they're a contributing factor, make sure that you're stretching and strengthening. If you're pushed on time, definitely go for the loaded mobility. And final thing is to make sure you've got the core stability, to make sure that it's not your lack of stability at your core misrepresenting as hamstring tightness. One quick way you can test this is in something called a dead bug. Key things are you're keeping your lower back flat to the floor, and you should be able to talk normally whilst you're doing this. If you're finding that you're gritting your teeth and you're screwing your face up, that is a sign that your core is lacking in stability. So just to show you what that looks like from the side. So I'm going to have my lower back against the floor, knees above hips, hands above shoulders. And all I'm going to do is take one leg as far out as I can, whilst keeping the other leg straight. And here I should have my lower back flat on the floor. I shouldn't be able to reach that spine. Now if I can keep this tight to the floor and I can talk through this, that indicates that my core is stable and it's not going to be a limiting factor. If you find that your back is arching up, again, if I just do this with my jumper off, you'll realise you should see the difference as to when my back arches up. So if I arch up, so for example, if I'm in this position, you can start to see daylight underneath, or I can get my hand underneath my spine. That's a sign that your hamstrings probably aren't the cause, they're just the effect. What's causing the issue is your lack of core stability. So to recap, if you've got limitations in the active straight leg raise, it's going to implicate, or it's going to negatively impact your ability to run, sprint, jump on a single leg, or perform any single leg actions. Key things to look at in terms of improving it: are your calves contributing to the problem? Is your core contributing towards the problem? Tightness in your calves, instability at the core are both going to impact the hamstrings because they will tighten up as a result. And if you found this useful or you've got any questions, then drop me a message. Catch you in the next video.